Okay.
Okay, so I have this hive here, and this hive last summer was diagnosed with European foul brood, and I sent a piece of the comb down to the Beltsville, Maryland lab for a diagnosis, and it came back positive for EFB. The hive was weak all summer long, although the state bee inspector, inspected it and saw no sign of disease about early midsummer. And so, because of the positive diagnosis, I treated this with terramycin, and it seemed to recover, and the bees seemed to be building up and being healthy. And so I watched the hive all summer long, and it built up honey stores pretty good. And I treated it for varroa mites with formic acid early in the summer, and then later on in late October I treated it with oxalic acid dribble. Bees were alive, and I didn't see any obvious signs of disease at the time, although the amount of bees in the hive was kind of, there weren't a large population of bees. So anyway, this is the diagnosis for this hive, which is did not make it through the winter. I had a regular cover on it and a piece of 2-inch styrofoam on it, which at first I thought that this was the bees had eaten this styrofoam, but I look at it now and I can see that there's little like gnaw marks in there. I think it's actually mice trying to get into the hive, or maybe red squirrels or something. I don't know what that is exactly, but my first thought was that it was the bees, but I had cut this channel in here to allow a place for the bees to get out if they wanted. So I'm looking at this, and this is I opened this hive earlier, and so there were some bees on here when I first opened it this spring, but you can see all this brown stuff here, which is like a dysentery type of from the bee feces. I'm assuming that's what that is. So I said that didn't look good, and you can see on the inner cover all this brown stuff here, which is nosema, maybe. Anyway, I pulled this off, and there was here again all this stuff here, this brown stuff here. I had fed these late winter with this sugar here, and you can see that they were eating it, and they were alive up until about 2 weeks ago, but they were eating it pretty well. But I opened it recently on a warm day, and there was no life in the hive, so I said, well, we'll have to pull this apart and look at it. And because of the EFB positive diagnosis, I didn't really have much hope for this hive, and I didn't really want to spread it through my other hives, so I kind of was thinking I'd probably eliminate this guy anyway. And so in some ways I'm kind of glad that it was a dead out. But I looked in here and I said, well, this was the hive was 2 deep supers, and you can see I had a partial foundation in here, and the bees were building that pretty nicely. This here, I don't know why they didn't build that out at all. I look in here, see some maybe sugar syrup, nectar, or something like that there. See these dead bees. There's one with his head in the hole. This was where the main cluster was. You can see it was really a very small area. And I'm looking at these bees here that they got their heads right in the cells, a typical starvation type situation. Here's some more over here. So although there's honey right here, so you would have thought that they would have gotten some of that. Over here, see, there's some more over here that are with their heads in there. And so I'm thinking the cluster was really small, and they couldn't really reach the rest of the honey stores that were there. So here's the rest of the cluster here. Pretty much same thing. Bees are trying to get that honey out of there, but then there again, there's a whole bunch of honey just below them. So I'm looking at this. Oops. There's, there's pretty good honey store there. This is not capped over honey nectar. I'm assuming this is maybe some syrup I fed them late in the summer. Or they had just started to build that out. But anyway, that was the top box. I put down a sheet of plastic here to kind of reduce the possibility of contamination here in the building with that EFB. So that way I can wrap everything up at the end. So this is the second box, and I'm looking here. If you look at this stuff, there's this fine residue here. I think it's wax. Now understand, I treated these with Tetra B terramycin midsummer, and at first I thought it was that stuff, but I don't think it is. I think this is wax. I'm looking at it, it feels like wax that they probably chewed out. So I go through this
low battery, 20%.
Okay, just stay, that's good. Just keep going. So this is they have pretty good honey stores. Got this weird brown area here. Don't know what that is about. Disease brood. Anyway, lots of honey in this. This is all honey. Some pollen. There again, that brown kind of thing going on there. And then these 4 frames are the 4 frames that came with the nuke that I purchased. I purchased this nuke from a local Vermont commercial beekeeper. And I look at this. This is the original brood frames I got with that nuke. They're completely empty of any capped brood. And there's a lot of bees down. I thought there was a lot of bees, but I see a bunch of these. I guess they're drone cells here. I don't see any obvious capped brood that this one here. I don't know. There's a larva in there, but it's there's a supersedure or queen cell there started. So I'm looking at it and I'm going, well, I don't see any obvious signs of brood disease on this, but I'm thinking what it was this was probably cleared up with the antibiotic treatment that I gave it, but the hive was very weak. And look at all that honey there that they didn't even touch. But I'm thinking that they never built up. You can pan back. They never built up their population high enough to really survive the winter. And I think they maybe just didn't have enough volume or mass there to keep their temperature up. That, plus the susceptibility to maybe nosema from the EFB and Varroa counts that were on this. The Varroa count on this was pretty high, but I treated it and I had a really good mite drop. So I don't think the Varroa mites did them in. And although this was my highest hive for my mite counts, So I would think that this is a combination of causes which killed this hive. One was definitely the presence of EFB bacteria. We know that that is a fact, and then that caused the population to be low. The other possibility is I might have killed the queen, because I don't see any brood capped in here that's dead. I would have thought, I don't know, this time of year there would be any there, but I'm thinking they might have been queenless without me knowing it, and that one of the reasons why they dwindled. But anyway, this is a hive that came from a 4 or 5 frame nuke from a local commercial beekeeper in Vermont, which had been inspected by the state beekeeper, and they admitted that they had not inspected everything, but this was definitely received as a new nuke with a positive EFB diagnosis, and now this following spring it's dead. And I have a little bit of it's a little bit annoying to me that there isn't a better monitoring of these diseases at the commercial scale when they're selling to amateur beekeepers like me, which are finding a lot of dead outs, and so I'm hoping that the state of Vermont kind of picks up the pace on trying to stay on top of these diseases, and hopefully we don't spread this to the rest of my apiary. I'm going to try to because it was just EFB, I'm gonna do a test kit on this for AFB. Make sure there's no AFB in it. I don't think there is, and I'm going to render the wax. I'm not sure about the honey. I think I'm going to try to salvage the honey for my own consumption. I did treat it with terramycin, but it was early in the year, so I think I'm safe there. And I think that the wax I'll definitely render out and use for not for selling for foundation, but for my own use, for wax candles or whatever, something like that. And so we'll see. But the frame equipment I think I'll probably dispose of. The boxes I may try to sanitize and flame treat. This is all new equipment, and I think I'm going to try to salvage the boxes with a flame treatment. So that's my dead out. That's my autopsy on this hive. Anybody has any ideas on what else might have killed this hive? Let me know. I'd like to know. Thanks.